Tofu Biscuit Sandwich. Let's go. Yo, I'm just gonna say it how it is. I'm actually sick and tired of people talking about tofu. It's bland, it's bad, it's whatever. You know what? We're gonna fix that. I'm obsessed with tofu right now. We've already played with the freezing part of it. Well, we've kicked it up a notch, and now we're adding it to a brine and really flavoring the tofu. So for today, we have a katsu tofu, we have a Japanese curry mayonnaise, and we have the best frickin' biscuit you've ever had in your life. Smash those two together, and dang, we have a brunch dish that will blow your guests away. So let's make it. This brine makes me so excited. I cannot wait to share it with you. We're starting off with 2 cups of water, 1/2 cup of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons plum vinegar, 1 tablespoon of messy molasses, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of organic cane sugar, 1/2 teaspoon ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoon granulated garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, and finally, the star of the show, the messy Marmite. That's right, it's worth the effort. It brings so much umami and big flavor to our brine. Bring the brine up to a low simmer, then reduce the heat to low. We're gonna place our tofu right into the brine, and we're gonna cook it over very low heat for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, gently flip the tofu, making sure it doesn't break, and cook for an additional 10 minutes. Remove from the heat and allow to cool altogether. Once the tofu is cool enough to handle, gently, very gently, remove the tofu from the pot, placing it in a loaf pan. The tofu is very fragile at this stage. And then we're gonna cover it with the remainder of the brine, where we're gonna place that in the freezer overnight. Place your brined, frozen, and thawed tofu in your tofu press. Start applying pressure for roughly 10 minutes. We really need to drain as much of that brine out of the tofu as possible. Let's remove it from the press. First, we're gonna cut the tofu in half, and then we're gonna cut that half in half again, exposing the inside of our tofu. This is the part of the tofu that actually is the least seasoned. So we're gonna really bolster that with adding a curry rub to it. Place the portioned tofu on a baking pan lined with parchment paper. To make our curry rub, it's super simple. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon of Japanese curry powder to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Give it a good whisk with your brush, and then we're gonna brush the tops of the portioned curry. After you've generously coated the tops, we're gonna season it with kosher salt. Then we're gonna pop it in the oven at 450 for 10 minutes. When the tofu comes out of the oven, it should be a light golden brown. It should be a little bit firm, but still a little bit moist on the inside. This looks absolutely perfect. When it comes to buttermilk, it's all about the viscosity of the liquid and the acid in the liquid. We have 5 tablespoons of garbanzo bean flour, 1 cup of plant milk, 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, and a teaspoon of kosher salt. The garbanzo bean is gonna start to thicken as it hydrates, and it's really gonna replicate that viscosity of traditional buttermilk, enabling it to be the perfect coating for our flour. Now, obviously, this buttermilk is not as thick as traditional buttermilk. It does have a little bit of thickness to it, but one of the things that's really interesting is when the garbanzo bean is heated, it actually thickens up and it helps the flour stick to the tofu. Now it's time to get the flour together. So we have 2 cups all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon kosher salt, 1 tablespoon everything seasoning, 1 tablespoon fresh cracked black pepper, 1 tablespoon ground turmeric. Give that the whiskey business, as some like to say, making sure everything is dispersed evenly. Next, we have a 1/2 cup of thinly sliced scallions, about 5 each. Mix those in as well. Ooh, I have to tell you, there's so many steps to this recipe that are just having me so excited, and this is one of them. The frying of our tofu today, it is gonna be amazing. Now, in a traditional katsu, you would use panko breadcrumbs. Today, we're gonna do it in flour. We're kind of taking the inspiration from it here. So take your tofu from the buttermilk, place it directly into the flour mixture, and really take the time to coat the entire surface of the tofu. Place the tofu on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper. Do all the tofu at once, and then we could start frying them next. We have our large pot filled with grapeseed oil, and we're heating the oil to 350 degrees. As soon as it reaches 350, gently place the tofu into the oil. We're basically cooking the tofu until they are a deep golden brown delicious. As soon as the tofu comes out of the fryer, a golden brown delicious, we're gonna place it on a drip rack, and then we're gonna season it just lightly with a little bit of kosher salt. Let's get the classic homemade biscuit rolling. In our bowl, we have 2 cups of flour. To that, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon kosher salt. Give a good whiskey to make sure all the ingredients are distributed. Add a half a cup of very cold vegan butter to the flour. Next, we're gonna start cutting the butter into the flour, essentially breaking the butter down in this very small pieces that are coated with the flour. Add 1 tablespoon rice wine vinegar to 1 cup of plant milk. Give a quick stir to incorporate. Add the plant milk to the flour and start to incorporate the milk into the flour. We basically are looking for it to just start to come together. We do not want to overwork the biscuit mixture at this point. Place your biscuit dough on a lightly floured work surface. Using your hands, gently pat the dough down, creating an even surface. Using your cutter, start punching out your biscuits. Place the biscuit on a parchment-lined sheet pan. Continue to punch out your biscuits until all the dough is done. We're going to place the biscuits in an oven at 425 for about 15 minutes. And then bam, after 15 minutes, look what we're left with. We're left with tall, flaky, golden brown, delicious biscuits that are just calling out for the rest of the ingredients to build this amazing sandwich. Last time we made pickled red onions together, it was back on our taco salad video. And in that video, I said we eat pickled red onions all the time. Wasn't kidding. This is the liquid that we have in our refrigerator right now. But to just do a quick refresher, we have 1.5 cups red wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons cane sugar, 3 teaspoons kosher salt, red chili flakes to taste, and then we have 1 red onion thinly sliced. I'm gonna bring the liquid up to a boil, add the onions, and just turn it off and let it cool. The base for our curry mayo is silken tofu. We're gonna use 1 pack, 5 ounces. Place that in a container that is large enough to hold the tofu, but also stable. To that, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon of curry powder, and to that, we're gonna use our immersion blender, and we're gonna start pureeing the tofu and incorporating all the ingredients, getting ready to emulsify our olive oil. To do that, we're gonna slowly drizzle the oil into the mixture using the immersion blender to continually move up and down, bringing that oil down into the tofu, thus emulsifying it. You're gonna continue to do this until all of the oil has been emulsified into the tofu mixture. To finish the curry mayo and give it that nice little pop, we're gonna grate 1 to 2 cloves of garlic on the microplane grater. We're gonna stir that in and incorporate, and then we're gonna give a nice hefty seasoning of salt just to bring all those flavors together. Woo, it's finally here. We get to finally build this beautiful biscuit sandwich. We're gonna start with the bottom biscuit covered in our curry mayo. Do a generous spoonful, spreading the entire bottom of the biscuit. On top of that, we're gonna hit it with our pickled onions, bringing all that freshness to the dish. On top of that, we're hitting our katsu fried tofu. Look at those crispy little pieces on top, so perfect and delicious. Next is our romaine, and on top of that, we're hitting it with our special ingredient that happened at the last second, fresh orange zest, bringing all of that beautiful perfume and aroma to the sandwich. Topping it all off with our biscuit covered in more curry mayonnaise. Let's eat this, everybody. Cannot wait to get in here and get the katsu tofu. Look at it, it's just amazing. I don't even know if I could get my entire mouth around that without making a complete and utter mess. The tofu has so much flavor. It's like bursting with the soy, the salt, the pickled red onions, and then the last minute addition, the zest of the orange, because you know we have orange peel in the curry. And I was like, wow, we could hit it with this pop of like vibrant citrus note to it. It's so good. The biscuit's flaky, it's delicious, it's so moist. And honestly, the curry mayonnaise is holding up to this entire big flavor bomb. Woo! This is delicious, you guys. You have to make it for your next brunch. I'm so excited for you. Hit the like button. Dude, leave some comments, people. Let's go. We got a lot of stuff to do. So we'll see you next Saturday. Thank you. You know, I'm not complaining. I get to eat the sandwich again. Wah!